And we are back. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with us here at the Doing All Right on Crown Global Media. Brian, this is episode 4, 3?
Episode 4.
Okay, we're gonna have to keep tracks of the episode so when we get to
You're
the
like,
100th episode, we
yeah,
celebrate. You feel me?
you get your channeling your Derek Eagleton episode, season 17 episode.
Season 25 is nonsense. Quit
Yeah.
quit counting them damn seasons. But I'm over here in the Iron Throne. Appreciate y'all, Voch Lombardi.
Yeah.
And Bryan Bryan Broaddus. Bryan Broaddus is over there in the on his side of the mothership, whatever he decides to call it.
Yep.
The Cowboys lose to the Philadelphia Eagles 24-20. Brian, you don't do moral victories.
Absolutely not.
The owner, general manager came out with some smiles on his face. I thought that was some nonsense as well, but you feel like the Cowboys did enough to win. They just did not.
They did not win, and that's the thing about it, though, Voch. They're in that situation right now where you're not going to get this Philadelphia Eagle team in a more compromised position than they were. And well, okay, you're saying, well, wait, Broaddus, they play later in the year. There might be some injuries. Last night was a great opportunity for you to go and take something from them on banner night, all the excitement. Nobody gave you a chance in hell in winning that football game. Voch and I kind of walked you through, hey, what are the possibilities? Hey, go attack a Dory Jackson. Hey, go find a way to do this or find a way to do that. For the most part, this football team did that. But you just didn't make enough plays when you absolutely had to have them. And that's the unfortunate thing is that you had a chance to win that game and you didn't. So that's 0-1 on the start, no moral victories, Voch. And I tell you what, that was I told myself I was not going to get mad at this football team. I told myself I was not going to get disappointed in this football team. I was disappointed in this football team last night because they had a chance to win that game.
Sure.
They had a legitimate chance to take that game, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, they had to finish, and if you're a young team, that's something that you have to learn how to do. The Eagles, compromise talent or not, they know how to finish games.
Yeah,
bro. They know how. They just got that championship thing in them, and that's something that the Cowboys got to just figure out on their own. Now, Brian, the first part of this episode, we're gonna talk about the offense.
Yeah,
we're gonna transition into defense, just to kind of keep this clean or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start by saying this. What did you think of the head coach, play caller? I was impressed with him, Brian.
Yeah.
All the promises that he made, the hey, we're not gonna be like Mike McCarthy in this way, we're gonna be different here. All his dirty mac and pay it off. The motions was there, shifts and everything was there, and getting his guys moving, getting guys going. The Cowboys didn't execute like we wanted to, but I think just play calling wise, I think Schottenheimer did his job, Brian.
You know what? I feel like he did his job, but did you feel like that his first 15 were better than what happened like later in that game? To me, it seemed like that some of the things that they were able to do with a motion and then another motion, very much like what you see with Sean McVay from the Rams, double motions on top of each other. But here you are, and I felt like that a little bit they became a little bit more stagnant in the way that they were playing. I felt like his first 15, the first 2 drives of the game, you got to feel the orbit motions, the things, and we talk about orbits, come across and then loop back around. There was those things that, to me, that was very much part of what the first half. The second half of that game plan, though, it seemed like that they were a little bit more of a stationary group, a little bit more spacing than they had. Watching the tape this morning, it seemed like that they went from a condensed team to a team with some spacing. They tried the seam passes several times in that game. Should have actually hit on. Matter of fact, the penalty that the one that where Ferguson got roughed up on, that should have been a touchdown. That should have been a catch. And and here you are. Maybe the game's in a different way, but I felt like for the most part, the way he managed the game, I thought was good. The play calling, I thought was good. I just, like I say, to me, the first 15 were probably his best 15.
Sure.
And when it came to the movement and the motions and the things like that.
Yeah, and maybe that's something that he can work on. But the one thing that just made me smile real big, Brian, bro, boy, I was so excited when I saw this. We talked about finding scrubs, right? You got to find the scrub, right? 2 things happen. Before the game even starts, Jalen Carter gets kicked out the game.
Right.
All right, cool bet. But the first thing you do is run right at B gap.
Yeah.
I love that, Bryan Broaddus.
Absolutely.
If Jalen Carter ain't going to be there,
right,
then we're going to double team whoever, it was Jordan Davis in there, and move him. And
they did a great job.
The offensive line did a really good job of moving folk, and we're going to get back on the offensive line all day, Brian. Here, all the other places we go, I'm talking about O-line all day, so y'all just get y'all ass ready. But as soon as Carter leaves, Shotty said, okay, we're going right there.
Right.
We're going right in that direction.
Oh, yeah.
And if your corners are bad, I'm finding your bad corners, and I'm going after those corners. So if I can start off giving Schottenheimer credit for anything, shouts out to you for actually finding what the other team is bad at and actually going after it. Brian, what did you think about the run game, the promised run game? It wasn't this super dynamic bell cow effort where they went out there and ran all over everybody, but the run was efficient, Brian. So what you think about that?
Yeah, no, I felt like that, Voch, when you watch the tape and you kind of break it down, there were some times there where Dallas had some really good concepts of what they wanted to do. I love the fact when they're able to use the trap game.
Yeah.
I love that when you get the puller, you get a kick out, you get maybe a lead up inside, and then you get somebody pinned to the inside. I felt like, though, the way that it was really like, it was like, oh, we're just not going to bang our heads against the wall. There was some creativity with the way that they ran the football.
Sure.
But you're right. When they went after, they go after some spots there in the run game. You get a double team, you get a push, you get the linebacker Bond, you get him knocked inside, you get a block up inside. It probably was an even better gain. I think that George Pickens had a rough game blocking. I don't know what kind of rodeo move. He was bulldogging guys there to get a 15-yard penalty. Yeah. That was a crazy thing to watch. But you get that block inside, that thing's going even more. So I love the way the creativity of getting their blockers on the move, down blocking, pinning guys, and then kicking guys out. Span Ford with that, did a nice job with some of that stuff. Hunter Lipke did a nice job with some of that stuff. And then you mentioned the offensive line. I felt like that when they got hip to hip and pushed, they were able to do what they needed to do.
They were running combos on both down linemen.
Yeah.
At times, Bryan Broaddus, and it was just you could see the movement. And I'm used to it, but in the past couple of years, I'm not used to a whole bunch of movement like across the board.
Yeah,
like normally it'll be like 3 of us are good,
right?
But we're missing one. There was some really good synergy, Brian, and even combos from tight ends and tackles working together.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a handful of times where Guyton and whoever tight end is moving the hell out of whoever's in that gap.
Yeah, the whole thing we were talking about how it was going to be the power gap and everybody's going to get hip to hip and push and get guys to the second level and all that. And I felt for the most part there were times though that really plays, and Zach Wolchuk and I were talking about this last night during the game in the studio, was that there were times where plays that in the past would have gone for negative or no gain turned out to be 2, 3, 4 yard runs. Yeah. And I give Williams a lot of credit, and you want to eat the crow burger or a crow sandwich or whatever. I kind of felt like that, man, maybe this might not be. Maybe they saw something in him running the football with power. That's what they saw in this guy, and they need that. They need a guy that has that ability. I'll tell you what was a little bit disappointing, and it was a great, well-blocked play, was on the Sanders run that went for 49 yards. Yeah. Man, you got to finish that. I mean, and Zach and Bond is a good linebacker.
Zach Bond shouldn't be catching you from behind.
But he gets through the trash. I mean, he's on the other side of the formation, and then all of a sudden he's running through trash. You get everything blocked perfectly. Yeah. And now you got a chance. That play has got to score. And I felt like that Sanders had a little bit of that juice, but it really he didn't. And people are saying, well, if Blue would have had that, if that would have been Blue, he would have
That's
scored.
Exactly what I said.
But see, the thing about it is, would Blue have had the patience to wait for the block and stuff to develop? Would he have waited for the kick and the lead and the block? Would he have been able to read all that? Maybe he would have. Sure. But yeah, you needed that play to finish in the end zone, the way it was blocked.
I will say, Brian, just watching, I think this offensive line benefits from running back patience. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You could just see those guys when they make the first jolt, there is movement.
Right.
But there's this period of calculating me leaving here to blocking linebacker that I think a runner like Williams, not this hit the hole quickly guy, kind of benefits from that. Like let it all percolate first and then kind of do your thing, Bryan Broaddus. But Miles Sanders kind of upset the hell out of me, Brian. Like that. For one, I was on his side for the big run.
Yeah.
Shots out to you on the big run.
Right.
You can't let Zach Bond catch you.
Yeah.
And then you can't fumble in the red zone, Bryan Broaddus.
And this is the unfortunate thing, though, Voch, when you watch the play on the fumble, and ball security is so important. And if you believe in ESPN metrics, stats, and all that stuff, they will tell you this is one of the most fumbling dudes in the National Football League. They will tell you that. And so, but you know what? Unfortunately for him, Smith, your best offensive lineman, can't secure Hall, the down lineman. And now all of a sudden Hall's coming across. Sanders doesn't see him. You get a hand on the ball. The ball's on the ground. No excuses. No excuses. It's just unfortunate that your best offensive lineman couldn't just secure that down tackle there to kind of make it, okay, a 3 or 4 yard gain, and let's play for the next play.
Yeah, and it could have been Miles trying to make a play and be hero guy.
Jump around in there, yeah.
But I'm fine moving forward, Brian, if Williams get most of the carries.
Yeah.
And Sanders is not a part of the tandem. I don't think you lose anything if Sanders isn't part of the tandem. Let me ask you this, Brian.
Yeah.
Voch says this, and then we're gonna talk about some defense that we talk crazy about Lamb for a little bit. Pre-game, you, Christy Scales, and Eric talking to Christy. Jalen Blue is not active.
Right.
Okay, cool. A week ago, Hunter Lipke gets paid.
Right.
In this game, I didn't see Hunter Lipke very much.
Kind of as a fullback H to a point. It was more about Spanford and then also Scooney and Ferguson when it came to those roles. Some of the trap stuff that it did,
Sure.
that was kick and then Spanford up inside, Hunter Lipke up inside.
So Nick Harris tweeted, I'm trying to find it, but Hunter Lipke wasn't even involved on teams, Brian, and he only had 6 reps on offense.
Yeah.
So you really only had 2 running backs last night.
Right.
I know that the report was Jadon Blue wasn't active because James
Special
Houston is a teams guy.
Right.
I don't think that's a great reason though, Brian. I think you have to find some other way to mess around with your roster to, for one, get 3 running backs you would use,
right,
but to actually get a better guy in there, Brian.
See, the thing though, I think with Blue, and this, if somebody would have told me in this game, Voch, that you're playing against a team that is heavy blitz.
Sure.
Heavy blitz. Philadelphia coming into this, not a heavy blitz team, even though last night they had to blitz to get some pressures. Yeah. You know, Dallas did a nice job up front when it came to handling their business in some of their pass blocking stuff. They were able to get that done. A couple of max protection plays. They tried. You know, they made sure they had themselves covered. But you're thinking if Jalen Blue is not going to be involved or needs to be involved, it's against a team that doesn't blitz much.
Yeah.
Where you have to stand there and read and pick up and do things like that.
Sure.
But talking to Christy pregame about it, you know, she said the reason why Blue was inactive, it was healthy scratch, and it was because they wanted to have Flournoy on special teams. That was the real reason why. Yeah. You know, and Christy's down there on the field talking to coaches, talking to front office people, and you know, getting the lay of the land. And I, you know what, I said I would have loved to have seen Blue in this game, especially, like I said, because the Eagles aren't a big, heavy blitz team.
I think you just needed a big play. You needed something to break open. You know, CeeDee was on his way. Like, he was 7 for 110.
Right.
Still dropped 100 yards worth of passes.
Oh no, he could have been the FedEx Air Player of the Week with a game in this. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. You had your, you know, Pickens drew 2 PIs, but he drew 1 PI. The second one probably could have been, but right. they were going at.
They weren't going to give you that. They weren't going to give you the second one.
That wasn't going to be easy.
No.
In my mind, you needed a big play from your run game, and Williams, who I trust him as a runner right now, I don't think you're getting big play from him. I would have loved to see Blue there, and maybe Blue is going to be active next week or the week after that. And we'll just see there. But I feel like the Cowboys left one on the table because you only really ended up with 2 running backs there.
Right.
Brian, your wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with Turpin because I ain't got much bad to say about him. He did some wide receiver things, did some running back things. We figured Turpin have a day like that.
Right.
Cool. Pickens probably should have gotten going earlier.
Right.
Did you see something on film? Because I was mostly watching trenches. Did you see something on film that would allude to the idea of why wasn't Pickens more target? Like did they try to take him away?
No,
because Lamb was wide the hell open for the most part.
It was really about how the coverage was played, and we were saying that in this football game that you're probably going to have to deal with Cooper DeJean and you're going to have to deal with Mitchell, and some of the passes that Pickens had to deal with that Dak threw his direction were because with Mitchell being there and stuff. So, Yeah, I think that to me, Dak, when they figured out a little bit about Adoree Jackson, I don't think they went at him enough in that second half of that game. To me, that is a full on until find a way to keep attacking him until they replace him. And they tried to during this game.
Yeah.
They tried to replace him for a little bit. But what the thing with Pickens, this is what's kind of interesting first game and just kind of watching him play. And people talk about him, Voch, a little bit of not a great route runner.
Mhm.
There was some times where you looked like routes were kind of not completely run how they needed to be run.
Sure.
You know, and I say that, and I'm not being nitpicky about it. I'm saying when you watch guys these really big time receivers, they have that ability to make people, to turn people.
Yeah.
There were a couple of times where Dak checked the ball down and CD had his guy turned because of the route, the way that they were able to stem inside and then get. Now the one time that Lamb, you watch Lamb run the route, the big catch he had down the sidelines, perfectly executed. Go inside, draw the defender, give yourself enough room to get to the outside. So it's motion inside, go inside, and then work to the outside. Those are the kinds of things that you didn't really see from George Pickens yesterday running routes.
Do you think that it's a situation where when we get into games, right?
Yeah.
Dak is a little more safe with the football, and Pickens isn't going to be wide ass open.
Right.
Like he's always going to have somebody around him. But based on his film history, Pickens catch passes with guys on his hip all the time.
He's the second best in the National Football League when it comes to catching contested balls.
But maybe
tight window throws.
But maybe just in Dak's mentals, he need to see you wide ass open before he even tries to get the ball to you.
Yeah.
Right? Because in my mind, there was such a discrepancy in like targets of Lamb to Pickens, and Lamb is your big dog, but Lamb got like 15 targets, maybe something like that. I don't have the official numbers in front of me. 12 to 13 targets, and Pickens maybe had
13. He had 13 targets, 7 receptions for 110, and 13 targets.
And Pickens may have had like 5 or 6. So
Four.
So
yeah.
Off the top of my head, Brian, bro, what's going on, man? I need a button. So I think that's something they will work on. And honestly, too, Brian, I don't think that you're going to run into a whole bunch of teams that have corners that
can play. They can take you away that way.
Next week, I think both sides are burnt toast. So if you're playing fantasy football or something like that, go after the Giants corners. It is what it is there. Besides that, Brian, I just wanted Lamb to hold on to those passes. If he's going to be the big dollar guy, if he's going to be the dude, the top guy, even if it's tough passes, but if they hitting you in the hands, I kind of want Lamb to come down with those.
The thing with Lamb is, though, that it kind of started with him early in the game. He came back to the ball that one time. I think it was like an 18-yard reception along the sideline. Looked like it might have been an interception. Dak rolling to his left, throws the ball to him. Great job by CeeDee coming back. But later in the game, they run a slant to him, and then it's a drop. And it's kind of like he's shielding himself, like he thinks he's going to get whacked on the play. He's kind of shielding himself, and he drops the ball. And then from that point on, he was fighting the ball a little bit there, and the third down and 10. I mean, they get the protection. He runs the inside routes. It's you don't really get the great clear. You don't get the great clear from Turpin, and then there's congestion in there. But still, the ball's on his hands. It's a play that CeeDee Lamb makes 9 out of 10 times. Doesn't make it. They called the last one. They didn't call it a drop. They just called it an overthrow. Ball was on his hands. I mean, it's a tough chance with that play, but you got to catch those balls. Those are the things. Those are the types of plays. If you're going to win games against teams that are defending Super Bowl champs, you have to come up with those plays. It wasn't like you're asking Tolbert or a Mingo or anybody else to come up with that ball. You're asking CeeDee Lamb to come up with that ball. And that's the thing that's kind of the most disappointing about it. Yeah, will CeeDee Lamb bounce back and be great next week? Sure. He was great for a lot of this game last night. But he could have been the guy that put the dagger in the Eagles, and it just didn't work out that way.
I'm going to lead with something nice so we can get the positives out the way, and then we're going to really break down the defense, okay?
Yeah.
Man, Bryan Broaddus, boy, let me tell you something. Trade compensation aside.
Sure.
Because I don't want the two to just be connected like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you just look at Clark versus Micah Parsons, you'll pick Micah every single time.
Right.
Trade aside, Clark is here. What did he do? Brian, we got a one-tech, man.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
Brian, we have a one-tech. The defense as a whole played better later in the game.
I think the weather delay helped them for an hour, kind of get some things ironed out.
And we're gonna definitely get to that.
Yeah,
But Clark was putting hands on Dickerson all day.
Sure
Bryan
was.
Broaddus. And
compromised a little bit too, and that's good.
yeah,
You know, I mean, hey, power guy versus power guy. Power guy compromised a little bit with the back.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that, and he did.
Now, Brian, up here on the film breakdown on the Crown Global Media film breakdown, we talked about a lot of ways to get to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
Boy, we looked correct how we broke it down and put it here. Look, Landon Dickerson's gonna lean. Landon Dickerson's knees hurt, and then it came out on the report that his back is
hurting. Yeah,
Go after that guy.
Yeah,
go after that guy. And I just saw Kenny Clark play powerful.
he did.
I saw him play powerful. He played square. If he was with the singles, if he was with the doubles, even in the midst of trash, his eyes were always on the football, so he could just get rid of people quickly to go make a play on the ball carrier. Bryan Broaddus. I just can't say enough how. In my mind, I was thinking what past Cowboys one takes would have looked like.
You was thinking Mozzie Smith, what Mozzie Smith would have done, and I'm not trying to sit there. I'm just saying past one.
Mozzie would have gotten pushed off the football, Bryan Broaddus. At any sight of a double team, Mozzie would have gotten pushed off the football. It is what it is.
It is.
I didn't see Kenny Clark lose a whole bunch of ground.
No, and he doesn't. And what's interesting about Kenny Clark is I didn't think that Jack Sanborn, I don't think the linebackers played particularly great in this football game. I just did not. I mean, Jack Sanborn was running underneath blocks. That you can't have that happen. There was a couple of times there where Murray looked like he got fooled by where the ball was going. And all of a sudden the ball's inside on him, and now it's if you look at the Barkley touchdown run, like he gets like I don't know what Murray's looking at. I mean he just doesn't even react. But then you talked about Clark, and the reason I say this, Sanborn gets penetration and has a chance, but Barkley jumps him. But who's in the hole? Who's playing his responsibility? Kenny Clark's playing his responsibility.
Yes.
Sanborn in the hole, boom, should be a negative play. Oh, wait, Barkley, jump cut, over to the side. Now who's standing there? Clark, gain of 1, gain of 2. That's what you got to have. That's how you have to play run defense in the National Football League. And Kenny Clark did a good job of that yesterday.
Clark was good enough to clean up a lot of the mistakes of the guys behind him.
There's no question about
Bryan
that.
Broaddus.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I hope I'm not being Homer, prisoner of the moment, but I think Osa played better because of that as well. Yeah. Bryan Broaddus. Osa was, and he had his moments as well.
I thought the tackles were better than the edges in this game.
100%. I think the edges definitely got better in the second half, but earlier, like contained, it just wasn't there. Brian, let me ask you this. Voch says this. Jalen Hurts, right up here on the board, I was like, "Hey man, Jalen Hurts will just get himself sacked with the thought of a blitz. You ain't got to blitz him all the way, but just the illusion of a blitz will make him drop his eyes and kind of run around a little bit." Right. The one thing that I made a big point of is that you got to come down and tackle him after that.
Yes.
After he runs around, you have to go get him now.
Right.
Is that like a edge contain problem? Is that a Eberflus is not calling a spy thing, or is that the DBs are just not looking for it? Why do you think Jalen Hurts' legs, because he really didn't beat you no other way.
No.
Why do you think Jalen Hurts' legs beat you so bad last night?
Well, I think what happened is you played some man coverage in the secondary, and all of a sudden backs were turned. Yeah. And now you've got safeties scrambling to find Brown, find Smith, find these. By the way, I thought the secondary was really good in this football game. I mean, you talk about Diggs getting involved in him and Bland having to play inside. Bland now paid, so he has no gripe. You go play inside if they tell you to go play inside, and he was fine. Elam, the one pass, I'm trying to kind of talk about the defensive backs here real quick. Mm-hmm. The ball that went down the field to Dotson, that is a really good route by Smith up the middle of the field that carries and holds Hooker. Hooker's sitting there, and he has to honor Smith. So all of a sudden, now the route is inside on Dotson, from Dotson on Elam. And Elam tried like hell to catch up. He did. He closed some ground, but the ball was in a perfect spot. Big play right there. Kind of the biggest play that they gave up the whole day. So, tip of the cap for the much maligned secondary, but nice to get Diggs back. He gave it a little stability back there. And so good for him for doing that.
I think,
but the thing about it that you talk about the edges and stuff like that. What was the one thing we said you cannot do to Jordan Mailata?
Run down the middle of
You
it.
can't run down the middle of Jordan Mailata. You can't run down the middle of Jordan Mailata. So what happens is all of a sudden you get Donovan Ezraku. He's a rookie. He hasn't never played against Jordan Mailata. But you know, if you're watching Jordan Mailata tape, you're watching defensive ends try and run down the middle of him, and he is crushing them. Yeah. He is going to hold you. That's what he does. You know, everybody's saying, oh, well, the guys, yes, it was bad holding. But when you run down the middle of a guy, they're not going to call it. You got to play on the edge. You got to get on the outside. You got to make him carry you to the ground or grab you. Much like what happened to Tyler Smith. Yeah. You know, Tyler Smith got beat up the field. What happened? He got out of position. He was on the edge, and he got turned, and he tried to basically tackle the guy. You've got to show the officials that you're winning that rep. You're winning on the edge. And what happens is Fowler, you know, going inside. Why do you spin inside when you got outside contained? Why are you spinning inside? And all of a sudden, there's all this green grass on the outside there. It happened to Fowler. It happened to Ezraku. These edges, if you're not playing your gap responsibility or your edge responsibility, I guarantee you when Brian Schottenheimer talks to the media today, they're going to talk about this. They're going to ask about this. Why? Why was there so much ability for Jalen Hurts to get on the edge? Because of spinning inside, no gap integrity, rushing Jordan Mailata down the middle of and not trying to attack him and get up the field. That was a big problem in this game, especially in the first half of it.
Now, Brian, you know, there's money attached to Dante Fowler.
Yeah.
There's a high equity draft pick tied into Donovan Ezraku.
Absolutely.
We need to see more James Houston. We need to see more James Houston and Marshawn Nealon, Brian.
I thought Marshawn Nealon was really good in this football game, Bosh. And we were I know on the pregame show with myself and Eric Chiafalo on 105.3 The Fan, Eric asked me, give me a dark horse defender. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I said Nealon was because I'd seen Nealon play left and right end. I've seen him play well against the run. You know, you could watch preseason games and see him do that, but you also saw him rushing the passer. Yeah. Give me a guy that can maybe beat a Lane Johnson. Give me a guy that maybe can. The one time that they rushed that Fowler got to the edge of Jordan Mailata, he was able to win, and it caused a pressure, and the ball had to get out quick. You know, Hurts throws the ball outside, but they rally and make a tackle. But there's pressure. There was pressure on the backside that he felt. But I felt like that Nealon going in this football game was going to be one of the most complete ends that you had, playing the run and also rushing the passer.
He was, Brian. He was one of your better ends, and I think going the next game, I think he's earned the right to kind of go out there first.
I don't disagree with you at all.
As your base end, go out there, stop the run. I mean, the Giants are still going to run with Tracy and company. We're going to break that down later on in the week. Be sure that you sub and turn on the notification. We're going to be breaking those plays down there. But Marshawn Nealon showed me, because he's not just like, okay, stop the run and get off the field.
Yeah,
I think he's
not
good
a one-trick pony guy.
I think he's good enough to be out there.
Yeah, he is.
Whenever
Absolutely is. Absolutely is. Yeah.
Brian, what you think about the rotation of tackles? I saw Solomon Thomas. You know, it's interesting what Kenny Clark can do. Adding Kenny Clark can put Solomon Thomas back in B gap.
Yeah.
Ain't that funny?
Yeah.
Brian, Solomon Thomas, just for context and clarity, if this is your first episode or something, watch me and Brian. Solomon was going to be your starting one tech. He was going to be your starting A gap guy with Osa in B gap.
Right.
Now we see Kenny Clark as A-gap guy. Solomon Thomas looks just fine in B-gap where he belongs. And your backup A-gap guy, Jay Toia, played fine as well, Brian. Yeah. So we just talked a whole bunch about Clark, and Clark deserves it. But talk about some of your other one-techs.
I think that when you watch like the Solomon Thomas one, I think Solomon's always going to play with that effort. He is always going to try and be that guy that's going to win with effort. He's going to try and win with quickness. He's going to try and win with that first step move. Him, Osa, kind of the similar types of guys. I felt like the one techniques, with Osa, kind of expecting a little bit more from him, especially if they were able to work him more against Landon Dickinson, because I felt like with Dickinson was compromised, or he was just, I felt like that was a spot that maybe quickness could have prevailed there a little bit better, but. For the most part, though, I felt like against the run, they were able to get moving it wasn't completely slant front. And I thought going into this game, it was going to be, okay, don't go toe to toe with these guys, move the front, attack gaps, get underneath and all that. When they were able to do that and get the fits behind it, they were fine. There were a couple of times, especially after the weather delay, where they were able to get guys in gaps and the linebackers were able to fill behind them, and they were playing the run. Saquon Barkley did not kill you in this game. The guy that killed you running the ball was Jalen Hurts, and that was because just naturally, all of a sudden, you don't always account for the quarterback. And then you get the question like, well, why don't they spy? Why don't they do this? And I don't know. I mean, when people say, well, why don't they spy? I think you're going to have to kind of go into a game having an idea and having a plan like, okay, on this down and distance, we're going to do this. Yeah. We're going to have a spy. But that defensive tackle group, Kenny Clark clearly was the best one of the group, and the way that he played with power, the way he was able to get upfield. But they played at times, they played on the Philadelphia side of the line of scrimmage. They were able to get some penetration on a couple of different times.
I got one more for you, Bryan Broaddus, and we're probably going to get these answers the more we just go through this week, and some people ask questions to coach, and maybe you'll text Flus or something like that. I don't know what's going to happen, Bryan Broaddus, but I want to know like why we didn't see a lot of Leofau on defense. I thought that maybe he was a guy that probably could have helped you out a little bit, his athleticism and instincts, but he only played he didn't play a whole bunch, I think like 6 reps or something like that. Yeah. And Clark played a whole bunch. And some people will say, like, if you sick of your whole linebacker core and Leofau doesn't play at all, I'm just curious as to why he didn't.
I thought Sanborn and Murray were the
worst,
were the poorest of the group.
Yeah, for sure.
And Clark was in that mix as well on some of the things that he was in. The thing with Leofau is, in a way, he's a little bit like Sanborn. And I say this in the, hey, I'm going to run under this block. I'm going to try and run under this block and then get back on the play. Yeah. But he could also, he's one of these guys that can also run. There were a couple of times where they just weren't quick enough getting to the edge. The ball would get to the outside, and they just weren't quick enough from the inside linebacker spot to get to the outside. And they played a lot of base defense. Clark was on the field quite a bit, as you mentioned in that football game. And the one thing Clark can do is he can run. And they probably had him on the field because they felt like that he was going to be a more of a physical presence than what you had from Leofau.
Put him out there. Put him out there and see what happens.
I agree.
If anything, I think Schottenheimer is a guy that'll take the film and actually make adjustments to it. I don't think he's gonna just keep banging his head up against the wall till he breaks. I think he's gonna make some adjustments. Not a bad start from the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe the lack of preseason football maybe showed itself a little bit, with some of the mistakes that you made. But you weren't really super heavy penalized like some of the
12 men on the field.
Year,
I mean, if you get a 12 men on the field penalty, that is a first of the season kind of a deal. Yeah. But, you didn't have the massive holding calls. You didn't have, unfortunately, the penalty on Pickens, that sets you back. That just, when you guys get your tape and you sit down and watch it, it's like, I'm like, what are you doing? You're not even breaking down, not even trying to block, not even trying to, you're just going out there and you're just playing like you're on a sandlot football. Yeah. That you can't have those kinds of penalties in these games. And so, but I thought for the most part they were a disciplined football team. Like I said, I felt like he handled the sideline stuff well. I think he handled the break really well. Sure. That the weather delay. I felt like that their team defensively, I don't know what happened offensively, but I felt like defensively they got better. That hour that they spent was kind of working on, okay, hey, we've got to be better doing this. And it showed up in those drives.
Yeah, man, we appreciate y'all for tapping in with us on this lovely episode of the Doing All Right here on Crown Global Media. Be sure that you hit the sub, you hit the like and all that. Go in the comments and tell us how we did today. Tell us if you disagree. Tell us if you thought that we could have used that dude that we just traded away to Green Bay. Don't tell us that. But also follow Bryan Broaddus on socials and follow VochLombardi. We'll catch y'all next time on Monday, all right? Crown.